Hi, this is Liz Fennessy, the chair of the Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission, and I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the continuation of a meeting that has occurred over the last several weeks, and I am required to read some statements at the beginning of an open meeting because of the virtual nature of this meeting. At the start of a public meeting, I am reading that pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by watching on your television or by visiting www.northandovercam.org. You may email if you have comments to the Machine Shop Village email, which is lfennessy@northandoverma.gov. L, F as in Frank, ENNESSY at northandoverma.gov. The second statement I am required to make for the part of any for the public body at the start of any public hearing conducted virtually is as follows. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this public hearing of the North Andover Machine Shop Village Neighborhood Conservation District Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen to the meeting in progress by watching it on the local cable access channel or www.northandovercam.org. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing which is designated for public comment by emailing lfennessy@northandoverma.gov as previously spelled. We have our quorum of the Machine Shop Village Commission, and we have with us representatives from the applicant for the Avalon Bay development. Ed, last time you gave a brief overview to reorient folks. Before we get into that, I'm going to just read a few of the comments that we have from last week. I do want to remind everyone, the public and the committee and the applicant, that the role of the Machine Shop Village Commission is to consider this proposal in the context of the historic nature of the neighborhood. For those who have been following this, we have design guidelines that are in place to help ensure that these proposed developments do, in fact, complement the nature of the neighborhood and are in keeping with the look and feel. The intent is not to mimic or to try to replicate, it is to complement. We did have a couple of comments from last time that I just wanted that we didn't get to as we ran out of time, and I want to read those. They start with, we have one comment that many in the neighborhood do not feel that this fits the size and scale of the area. Another comment that vinyl siding doesn't make a building fit into a historical neighborhood. Sutton Pond has been there since 1985. A comment saying that I think it should be all brick so that it will fit into the neighborhood. And then a request that the commission view the. It would be great if someone from the committee can view from our area, come down to Sutton Pond and see what we will be looking at. I would mention that, part of the committee's obligation is to familiarize themselves with the proposed improvements proposed to an existing building, the proposed development, and part of familiarizing themselves is having an understanding of the lay of the land in addition to what the proposed change is. With that, Ed, if you don't mind, maybe catching us back up, just a brief overview of the proposed development and then the modifications that were requested at the last meeting. I will also remind you that due to the nature of the remote meeting, we need to cite the document that we are in and the page and the title each time that we're talking and narrate the location and the specific items that we are talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. This is Ed Bradford with TAT, architect, and maybe like last time I can share my screen.
That would be great.
Is that working for folks?
Yes, for me it is.
Okay. Yes, we prepared a series of exhibits showing proposed design revisions that have been made in response to the comments that we heard from the committee during the May 28th hearing. We include first 2 exhibits comparing the design we reviewed just 2 weeks ago with a revised design option showing proposed changes in response to the comments. And then second, we have a group of exhibits showing the impact of these design changes when viewed from a couple vantage points. One, as the committee requested, from Water Street, and another from the Sutton Pond condominium parking lot. So I'll dive in. This first exhibit is titled Material Palette Original Design. And this does show the design that we reviewed during the May 28th hearing. And just to go over some of the comments.
We're on page 1. We're on the first page of the document dated June 8th, correct? Yep.
Yes.
Thank
yes. So during the May 28th hearing, we had a lot of discussion regarding our initial design approach, and particularly our approach that proposed a kind of regular stack or stacking of window openings, but also in our original design that's shown here, some variation in the widths of the windows reflecting the spaces within. It was noted in our discussion, comments from the committee, as I understood the comments, that more regular openings would potentially blend better with the mill context, especially when viewed from public ways within the district, including the Water Street vantage points. So again, showing the design that we reviewed during the last couple of hearings, just to highlight, we had a lot of discussion about the rhythm and size of windows. So I want to highlight that again. We did propose 2 types of windows. We had a kind of larger opening, most often at living rooms, about 9 feet wide, and then a narrower opening, about 6 foot wide, at bedrooms. So that's the kind of fenestration or texture that you see in this proposed design. The school control is in my way. Oh, okay.
There's a hide button. It says you can hide that.
Thank you. Just did that. Okay, so moving on to sheet 2, this is titled Material Palette Proposed Revisions. So this does show just that, a series of revisions really that we're proposing, made in response to the comments that we heard during the last hearing. And the main change relates to the size and the spacing of the openings that I just described in our original design. So what we're proposing now, again, in response to the comments, is a regular grid of openings. All of them are 8 foot 8 inches wide by 8 feet tall, and creating a more regular pattern. But still, the two window types within these openings still do vary, reflecting living spaces behind them. So to create the effect of this more regular series of openings, what we're proposing is the addition, you can see in the bedroom window, the addition of a new fiber cement panel that's adjacent to this smaller window, so that while the bedroom window itself is still this 6 foot by 6 foot dimension, it's the panels that are about the window on the side and on the bottom that give the impression of a larger opening. So now an opening that's very consistent with the size and appearance of the living room opening. So that is within the residential texture. We're proposing the same. We had less conversation about the brick texture during our last hearing, but we are proposing a similar change within the brick. In this case, a lighter panel that is proposed to be located adjacent again to the smaller bedroom window, again to give this overall effect of more regularity to the openings that are within the brick. So now I think what you can read, as compared to our original design, the design we reviewed 2 weeks ago, a much more regular rhythm of windows where all the stacks are now a similar width. And I think more importantly, the kind of overall visual effect, especially when viewed from further away and from public ways within the district, and I'll get to that in the next slide from Water Street. You see a regular grid of wall surface either in the siding or in the brick that we think is more complementary to the regular rhythm in the openings that are within the mill buildings themselves. Before I leave this slide, I just want to highlight a couple more kind of more subtle changes, but we are proposing a few additional changes as well. The first you would probably notice right away is the change in the accent panel from the red color that we propose. That is the narrower, actually 8-inch accent panel that's set within the openings. We're proposing to change that color from a red to a black color. We still think it adds a lot of visual interest that we want in the design, especially when viewed up close. But it's a color palette we think is more compatible with the mills. The black color is one that's very prominent within the mills, mostly in metal, but other elements as well. We're also proposing the color of this accent panel match the color of the balcony railings and the fascia about the balcony. So a kind of a little bit more calmer color palette, and we think kind of gives a more kind of industrial look that's appropriate here. Another change to point out, we are proposing a change in the base of the building to vinyl siding at the base. So that would just make the field that these cement board elements are set in more consistent, that we think is appropriate with this change. A couple more items to point out over in the brick. We've added a brick spandrel panel between the windows, so between the bottom and the top of the windows, again to give we think contribute to a more regular opening and a more simple grid of brick that's compatible with the mill texture. And then finally, the last element that we're proposing of change is up at the cornice line within the brick. We're proposing a kind of simple corbelling detail up at this cornice line. Again, this is a feature that's pretty common in most of the mills. So we're kind of executing it in a little bit more simple, kind of unique way, but again, another element that we think is complementary to the mills. So if folks, I could just kind of flick back and forth quickly, and you could do the same with the, if you turn the pages, you can, and I'll do that now. I'm just flicking back and forth from page 1 to page 2. You can, I think, kind of see pretty clearly the change to a more kind of regular rhythm that I think some folks in the committee were requesting that we explore. Now, moving on to Exhibit 3, this is titled View from Water Street at West Mill, Existing Conditions. So another request from the committee was to consider what the view of our proposed design looked like from exactly this vantage point, as I understood the request. So here we're standing between 56 and 60 Water Street. So the lofts at 60 Water Street would be just to our right, and 56 Water would be just to our left. So we're standing just to the left of the ramp that you can see to the right of the image that provides access to the kind of side entry at the lofts at 60 Water Street. Just for more orientation, the brick mill to your right in the image is of 50 Mill Street. I'll move to page 4, which is titled View from Water Street at West Mill, Proposed Conditions. So here we've cropped our computer model of the proposed design into this photograph. So kind of pretty much right in the center of the image, you can see building A is visible from this vantage point. The other buildings are not visible because they're in fact screened by building A itself. But I think you can see the effect of our proposed design changes, especially in the brick end. We are about 800 feet away from this vantage point, so we're quite a long way away from the building. But so really the details in the windows, some of those details wouldn't be, or most of those details would not be visible. But the regular rhythm of brick openings, I think, is what is most legible and probably most important from this vantage point. And we think it is a pattern that's more complementary, and I think you can see it pretty clearly here with 50 High Street adjacent, a pattern that's we think complementary to the mills. Moving on to slide 5 is titled View from Water Street at West Mill. So kind of standing at this vantage point, we were just to the left of the ramp, but in the same location between 56 and 60 Water Street. If you just move to the right of the ramp, you get a little bit different perspective and a little bit wider view corridor towards the site. So this again is the existing condition from this vantage point. And I'll move to page 6, which is titled View from Water Street at West Mill, Proposed Conditions. So again, as I noted, a little bit wider view corridor here towards building A that is again visible. You can pick up in this view a little bit more of the siding texture. But again, as I described initially, we think the proposed changes are positive. So again, what's legible, we think, from this vantage point far away is again this regular rhythm of either siding or brick that we do think is complementary. And then this last vantage point that we prepared is from the Sutton Pond condominium parking lot. We're now on sheet 7, titled View from Sutton Pond condominium parking lot, existing conditions. So while not in the district, this is the same vantage point that we reviewed at prior hearings. So thought it would be helpful to show the impact of the proposed design changes from this vantage point. So again, this is the same view we looked at prior hearings. To the left is the Sutton Pond condominium. We're standing in the parking lot, and straight ahead is the site. Page 8 is titled View from Sutton Pond Condominium Parking Lot Original Design. So this is the design that we reviewed at the last two hearings, not showing our proposed design changes yet. And then finally, page 9, the last of our exhibits, titled View from Sutton Pond Condominium Parking Lot Proposed Design. So compared to the Water Street view, here we have moved quite a bit closer. So we're about 200 feet away from this vantage point. But again, we think the same outcome, but with this design, a much more regular pattern of openings, both in the brick and the siding, a more regular texture. So again, rather than reading the varying sizes of windows, I think you do read the frame about the windows, either in brick or siding. Again, we think that is appropriate for this site and complementary to the mills. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. This is very helpful. I'm looking through them. I like what you've done with making the windows appear more regular. That I do think is an added benefit. And I'm looking at, could you go back to maybe sheet, I guess the view in between 56 and 60 water, because we're concerned about the view from the public way. So, yeah. Do you mind doing what you did before, the flipping between the having nothing and proposed?
Sure. Yeah, I'll flip
Yeah.
between page 4 and page 3. This is page 4 showing the view from Water Street proposed, and I can flick back
Yeah.
to page 3 showing the existing condition and can go back
Yeah.
and forth here.
Harry, I know this was an area of particular concern for you at the last meeting. Do you have any reflections now, given what you're seeing?
I actually like the proposal. I think the regularity in the configuration does kind of line up with how the mill buildings, to the right, as
Yeah.
was pointed out by Edward, is complementary.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and feeling similarly. Jan, Jerry, any comments?
No, I don't have any issues.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's a big improvement with the window spacing and pattern.
Do we have any other comments or questions? I asked for this one just because this was a topic. Are there any other views anyone wants to see? If that's not the case, I'm going to open up for public comment for 2 minutes via email. If we get some email in the next 2 minutes, I'll read those to get any reflections on the proposed revisions. So at 6:26, I'll read whatever we get. Okay. It's 6:26. I have a comment. Avalon, my opinion doesn't matter. Can we get an idea when they plan to start building? We can respond to that. First, we need to have a vote. Does anyone want to make a motion? Do we want to have any other discussion?
I can make a motion, Liz.
Okay.
So the motion will be to accept. I'm trying to pull all these documents together because, usually we have the physical documents and then we approve the physical documents. So the proposal will be to accept the materials from this presentation dated 6/8.
Yeah.
And additionally, we'll have to include, I'm trying to get to it. The other proposal. I don't have it right in front of me. So what was the original proposal that we looked at?
It was dated May, was it May 4th?
I'm looking.
I have one last comment that came in at 6:26, and after I read this, I will close the public comment period. Local residents have not been heard.
Is there a question? Or?
There's not a question. And I'm closing the public comment period. So I would propose that the motion consist of the sheets that include the revisions on this document. And I understand from Bernadette that we are doing a voice vote, but what I could do is create the PDF that indicates the voice vote and will not have our signatures on it, and attach just the sheets that show proposed design.
So will that include the original presentation and this material selection? Is that what you're envisioning?
Well, I don't know if we need, because pretty much everything is fixed by, the planning board, the size and the scale and all of that is not changing. The only thing that's changing really is going, from what they're showing on sheet 1 and sheet 2, is really the difference that I see in the materials. And we don't really have any jurisdiction over anything else. So maybe it's just that. Maybe we just put in the page 2, the proposed design that indicates the materials. But I was originally going with also using any of their drawings that show proposed conditions, because it does indicate that the window openings would be consistent throughout the building and not just on the faces that are visible from the public way.
Hey, Liz, this is Dave. I was just looking at the sheets, and it's sheets 2, 4, 6, and 9 of this presentation.
Okay, yep. So I could put that together as a PDF, but that could be what the motion is made. Jerry, Jan, do you think that would cover it? I mean, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Do you want to make that motion, Harry?
Okay. So I make a motion. What were the number of the sheets again? 2,
2, 4, 6, 9.
2, 4, 6, and 9. So I'll make a motion that based off of the presentation for the 6/11/20 packet, sheets 2, 4, 6, and 9 from the material palette would be used, would be approved for a certificate of appropriateness.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I'll record the voice vote as 4-0. I will prepare a document that indicates that. We'll cite those 4 pages and we'll attach those to a PDF and I'll issue that.
Okay.
At this
Sounds
point,
good.
I'm gonna close the meeting, close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and then close the meeting. Any final comments?
Just, Dave Gillespie from Avalon, I just want to thank everyone for their time and review. I think that the building made some very good strides through this process, and we appreciate your time and effort.
No, thank you for listening to the comments and responding accordingly. I think the improvements in the window opening really does impact the character and the visibility from a distance. So that's the goal of this committee. Thank you. Now, Bernadette reminds us that we need to log out of this presentation. We need to log out of this meeting so that they can wrap it up and we don't stay in it. Bernadette, do I have that right? Is there anything else people need to do?
That sounds right. As long as the meeting is adjourned, everybody can log off, just so that we're not still live on TV without people, I don't want any comments. We should just log off as soon as the meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.